Meg had a steamy crush on one of the dreamiest guys in James Wood Regional High, named Kent. She secretly used to stare at him during lunch breaks but couldn't muster up the courage to ask him out. Meanwhile, Stewie and Brian got their hands on Meg's diary and began to rummage its pages. The duo learned that Meg was obsessed with Kent as most of her diary pages were filled with jabberings about Kent. After school, Meg stared absent-mindedly at Kent, who was practicing football, when Mayor West's car accidentally dashed towards her and crashed into the tree. Thankfully, both Meg and West were unharmed. Meg knew that she couldn't take it anymore, so she decided to ask Kent out. Still, she couldn't bring herself to call him when Lois encouraged her to do so. Meg called Kent and asked him out. Kent accepted Meg's offer to her delight. Meg had a wonderful time with Kent on her date night, but when she was about to kiss him goodbye, Kent revealed that he was gay and was interested in Chris instead. Stewie overheard the conversation and mistakenly thought that Kent was interested in him. Meg cried bitterly in the kitchen when Brian got stuck with her and tried to console her. Brian explained that Kent probably thought he was straight at first but then decided to come out. Meg vowed that she would make Kent realize that he was straight as always. The next day, Kent expressed his desire to sit with Chris, and the latter didn't mind since he and his friends were just having a political discussion. Chris and his friends talked in sign language, and it seemed one of his friends, Bill, didn't like Kent's intrusion into their group. Meg dragged him away and Kent wondered whether she was okay after last night. Meg explained that she knew that Kent was going through a confusing time, but deep in her heart she believed that Kent was straight. Kent protested that he was gay, but Meg pointed out that he didn't act like one since he played football and wore $20 jeans and tops. Brian was worried that all that gay straight thing didn't create chaos in the house. Meg tried to force herself onto Kent to his vexation. He tried to ward her off since her behavior was getting too weird. Kent declared that he didn't want to hang around with Meg anymore, to her dismay. Meg was in blues, sitting all alone in the locker room when her besties arrived. They were equally shocked by Kent's interest in Chris. Her friends encouraged her to move on since Kent was not the only fish in the pond. But Meg couldn't get over Kent. One of her friends suggested Chris describing every detail of Kent to her. Meg got an insane idea that she could always make Chris sleep with Kent. Hesitantly, Meg referred to a hug coupon that Chris gave her on her 9th birthday, and since she never used it, she wished Chris could upgrade it and sleep with Kent instead. In this way, he could narrate all the details to her. Chris agitatingly refused, emphasizing that he liked girls and wasn't gay. Meg explained that girls were terrible as they kept on backstabbing each other and giving each other phony compliments. Still, Chris didn't budge. Meg even tried to bribe him with $100, but all in vain. Meg was adamant to make the impossible possible by hook or by crook. Meg dropped by Quagmire's place to grab a bag of some roofies. After being nosy about her affairs, Quagmire handed her the pills. The next day at school, Meg broke the news to Kent that she talked to Chris and even he wanted to hook up with Kent as well. Kent was overjoyed since he didn't know that even Chris was gay. She warned him that since he was not aware of his sexuality, yet he would pretend to be snoozing, so Kent had to do the major work. The following night, Meg spiked up the Kool-Aid jug for Chris and was about to give it to him when she stopped short, seeing Chris rummaging through her drawer. On inquiring, Chris showed her a picture of a memory when it was raining really hard. Meg was the one who taught him to hunt squirrels. Meg got emotional on seeing that photo and pondered that Chris was so thoughtful for saving that picture. As the night deepened, Kent slipped silently into Chris's room. Chris shrieked at Meg, who frantically came into Chris's room claiming that she had just texted him that the plan was off. Chris was baffled, so Meg apologized to him as she wasn't thinking straight. She even apologized to Kent, but the latter stormed out, calling her a psycho. Meg was sitting all alone in her room with a long face when Brian consoled her that she committed a mistake, but she was not a bad person. He assured her that one day she would meet her Mr. Right.